What's up, guys, and welcome finally to the FPL WildCats Live. Hopefully everything is working. We have been pulling our hair out trying to sort everything out, so apologies. To be honest, we're all pretty much ready for bed, but we had to get on to talk FPL with you guys. So again, massive apologies, but thank you for waiting. 19 of you already in here, so much appreciated for your patience. Please do subscribe if you are new to the channel, and I'll pass over to Nim, who I'm sure will also apologise, and we'll get started with the stream. And let me know if there's anything wrong with anything in the chat, and I will try and sort it out as soon as possible, but everything should hopefully be sweet.
Yeah, thanks, Jay, and welcome everyone to our first pre-season stream for the 1920 Premier League season. Well, I'm really sorry to you guys, as Jay said, that we're so late. So we are bringing you FPL WildCats After Dark tonight. And it's just been one of those evenings. Literally, as soon as we built it up, we knew it was all going to go wrong. And unfortunately, it did. But we're with you now. A little bit about us, in case you are new around here. We're 4 Fantasy Premier League YouTubers who came together last season to create the FPL WildCats. You can see our channel links below on the screen, hopefully. We're also often joined by members of the community, so who knows, you could be a Wildcat this season too, so look out for the opportunity to do that. We have an open league code, so if you want to join, you'll see it on the bottom of the screen next to the ticker, hopefully. But also be sure to keep another league slot open, as we do have lots of other stuff coming very soon to you guys. We just wanted to get a stream out tonight for you guys so that basically you could see our lovely shiny new graphics. So finally you can see those, and to say thank you for supporting us in our first season. So we're really thankful for that, and we're grateful to be back again for another season. So let's get on with the show. Feel free to get those questions in the chat now that you can, finally. As we don't have our teams to discuss yet, how about we start with some team formation chat? We've got the prices now in the FPL. So where do we all feel that the value is at this season? Brett, you happy to kick us off with this one?
I can do. Do we know if my audio is okay, Jay, in terms of the sync and stuff? We're getting a few comments about the audio.
Yeah, I mean, it looks all in sync on my OBS, but yeah, they're saying Nim was out of sync.
All right, well, I'll give it a little try and see what the guys say in the chat. Yeah, with formation, I mean, I saw this question before we went live, and I don't really have a preferred formation, to be honest. I never try and set up my team in a particular way. I always just try and put together a team that I feel happy with, you know. Obviously, in the Twitter community, we're seeing lots of back fours and back fives this season, and that's kind of been inspired by, you know, the top scorers from last year, or, you know, the defenders like Robertson, Trent, and Van Dijk all getting like near 200 points or above 200 points. So a lot of people are thinking, well, the value's there, you know, so that we're going to load up on defenders at the start of the season. But yeah, I haven't got a preferred formation. I mean, I've always gone towards, you know, going heavy up front, because before I was taking FPL seriously, I would always just try and get a big, like, a strike force. But as the game in real life is changing a bit, you know, there's obviously a bit more value up front now. And yeah, for large parts of last season, I did end up going very light up front and then having lots of money in midfield, you know. So I don't know. There's no particular formation that I've got picked out yet. But in the kind of drafts that I've made, I have got the 4 big hitters in defence, you know, 6 million plus. So the likes of Digne and Trent, Robertson, maybe Van Dijk and Laporte as well. You know, those 4 or 5 are hard to ignore.
Okay, cool. How are we looking? Any better, lads?
Apparently, Brett's is better than yours. So yeah, people are saying, some people saying Brett's fine, so it's just yours. So if you ask Kurt,
cool.
We'll see if Kurt's is fine. No one said anything about mine either.
Kurt, formations.
Formation, I've sort of from the get-go, is something that I've dismissed from the very first season I played it up until now, because a set formation always limits you, and I feel like, in my eyes, I'd go into every game week thinking, what players have I got? I can always try and load up more on the defence or load up more on the attackers, because you've always got, you know, every team's got to have a budget enabler, so to speak, whether that's a defender, midfielder, or attacker. But formations for me, I leave it very much. This season, I think it's going to be defence orientated, to maybe a 4 or 5 at the back. But a lot of times there could be a budget attacker who's got a decent hit a decent bit of form. He's got a decent game coming up, and you could switch it around. But I think this season is probably going to be the first season where I potentially look at maybe just sticking with at least a 5 at the back, because the defenders, they get forward so much. You look at Andy Robertson last season, Trent Double A. The potential there is so huge that I think it's silly to pass it up.
Cool. And Jay, seeing as I'm out still.
So the way I see it is, if we actually look at the past few seasons, if you see where the points are and the value for those points, forwards, especially as the way the modern game is going, forwards seem to play less importance. The fact that the likes of Salah and Mane didn't get moved to playing up front, I think, I mean, midfielders just get more points for goals anyway. I think generally there's more value in midfield, especially when you have the likes of Sterling and Salah around, potentially two of the best players in the league, especially for FPL. And then, of course, defenders last year. Can Liverpool get those kind of returns again? I'm not too sure they can. But the fact is, 3 Liverpool defenders in the top 10 scoring players for the whole season. So, for me, right now it seems like maybe if you fit one premium price striker or someone like a Jamie Vardy, then from there I see money being spent, Sterling, Salah, and then your defenders, because 7 million for a defender that scores you over 200 points. What £7 million midfielder scored you 200 points last season?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment it's even hard to get the likes of Jamie Vardy in my team, to be honest. Even he's a bit too expensive, the way I've got my team set up at the moment.
Yeah, having a premium striker is proving to be difficult this season, isn't it? For sure. I always start. I don't know if I'm still lagging, but I'll give it a go. I always start with the 3-4-3 formation. I'm not sure why. I just feel this is my comfort zone, and I like strikers. Always have. So I try to have as many as possible. But I'm struggling this season, as you say. The defenders seem to be far more expensive, and there seems to be a lot of decent priced midfielders. My first draft on my channel was 3-4-3, but I am considering my options going into this season, definitely. I'm not sure I can just go one up top. It may be where the value is, but I'm just not sure I can do it. 2 might be my limit, and that'll probably be 1 premium and 1 medium priced forward, I think. Do let Jane know in the chat if I was any better that time.
Well, basically the general consensus seems to be that the audio is very good, so they don't mind too much.
All I keep on seeing is that I'm the most in sync, so I'm happy.
Yeah, apparently Kurt is
As long as
fine.
Kurt's in sync, everyone's happy, so...
Cool.
Well, I'll keep working on it, but feel free to ask me questions.
Cool. Okay. Leicester City then. Who's jumping onto Leicester City assets and who's avoiding them? If we're jumping on, who are we thinking is the best options? Kurt?
Yeah, maybe a poor one to start with. I've got no Leicester coverage. I didn't really, to be fair, I haven't changed my team at all. This is the first season I keep on looking at, and I keep on thinking there's a few players I'd change, but it's generally quite balanced. Leicester-wise, before the prices and before the game was launched, surprisingly, I had a few players I was looking at. Pereira in the defence, 6 million is far too expensive, considering I suppose he got the troll status last season. Maybe, just maybe, this could be a season for Chilwell, a breakout season, a season to sort of solidify a better performances, because he's going to get better. And I'm not saying he's bad, it's just the fact that I think he can keep on rising up in terms of ability. However, interestingly, now one player that wasn't there at the start, Iosi Perez, now he's a Leicester player, 6.5 million for a midfielder. Could he potentially slot in behind Vardy? I think now, with him moving to Leicester, he's more likely to be utilised as a midfielder. I doubt they'd have spent the money on him to bring him in as a backup to Vardy with Iheanacho there. But I think he's probably the better one out of Maddison, who's a bit too expensive. And then the only other one really is Tielemans, who's not yet priced. But I'm not sure how much he'll be, but however much you think, I think judging by the way the prices have gone so far, if you think he's 6 million, then he's probably going to be 1.5 million extra. But yeah, no, I think he'll be a bit expensive. I think because they'll follow trends. If he's not expensive and he looks all right, he could be another one. But for me, Perez is potentially the best one there.
Yeah, well, I'm considering jumping in and waiting on Tielemans' price, as you were just saying. He's been announced today for Leicester. I think he'll be a good option with 3 goals and 5 assists in 13 games in the league. Announced today as a 4-year deal for the club record of a reported £40 million, I believe. So, actually, quite surprised he wasn't jumped on by any other clubs, if I'm honest. So I think I would consider him as an option. Brett, what about yourself? Any Leicester assets for you? I know you just said that you can't afford Vardy, so were you considering him?
Yeah, of course. I haven't got any Leicester players in my draft, my kind of rough draft at the moment. But the more I think about it, I would like to get one in there, if possible. Just looking before we came live, I did a bit of research on Leicester and looking at when Rodgers took over. I think it was around game week 27, game week 28. So there was 10 game weeks where Rodgers was in charge. And in that last 10 game weeks of the season, Vardy was the 3rd highest point scorer of the whole game. I think he got about 80 points in 10 game weeks. So eight points per game week, basically, averaging. And only behind, I think, Trent and Mane, and that was all under when Brendan Rodgers took over. So if Rodgers can take that kind of form into the start of the season now with Leicester after a good pre-season, if Vardy can carry on from the way he played at the end of last year, then I think he could be amazing value, And again with Maddison as well, even James Maddison at 7 million, he's another player that, I mean, the £7 million midfield slot that we've seen a lot of people have is Zaha at the moment. Zaha kind of seems to be like the 7 million template option, at least in the Twitter community. But I do like Maddison as an option. And again, did a bit of research, and maybe everyone kind of knows this already. But throughout the season, Maddison created the most chances of any player in the league, 100 chances created, which was more than any other player. Not big chances. He was a bit lower on that one, maybe 6th or 7th in the league. But that's not just for midfielders. That's for every single player in the league. Maddison created the most chances. So with Vardy now firing under Rodgers, Maddison's very tempting as well. But the issue with Leicester is there's so many good options now. Perez is there at 6.5. Tielemans probably going to be about 7 million. It's kind of like, which one do we go for, which is the tricky one. But I'm liking the look of Maddison, and I'd love to get Vardy if I could, but the way my team is set up at the moment, I can't afford him. But you can't ignore those kind of stats since Rodgers took over.
Yeah, cool. And Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big issue is it's just a lot of the players are just out of people's price budget after they've gone for the likes of Salah, Sterling, expensive defence.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I think Jose Perez is so interesting, because he comes in under 7 million at 6.5 and a midfielder now, which means he'd score more points for the goals that he scores. So I'm very tempted by Jose, but of course I have to see him play in that Leicester side. I would love Vardy, but I can't really afford Vardy.
Yeah.
And Tielemans, it's a waiting game with him. If he comes in at a good price, then I think literally everyone's going to jump in on him.
He's got to be 7 million, hasn't he? Surely.
He'll be 7 million or up, But because he seemed to do so well near the end of the season, it's a bit like the situation with Jota, where kind of wasn't on the radar for the whole season. So maybe because his points total wasn't that high overall, I have a little bit of hope that he comes in at a decent price. And if he does, then I think he'd be someone that's slotted straight into that 4th midfielder slot.
Yeah, I guess the thing with Tielemans, and I'm not saying a Jose Perez won't play, because they've obviously spent a lot of money on him too. But if with Tielemans being so good for them last year and being the record signing, there's no doubt he starts. Perez is maybe a little bit, he probably will. I'm not saying he's not going to, but there is that element of doubt where Perez will fit into this team, and I'm sure he's going to get plenty of minutes. But I just think Tielemans is the more assured of starts. So at the beginning of the season, maybe if you don't want that headache about having a player that maybe is on the bench, Tielemans is maybe a little bit safer.
Well, yeah, I think you can easily get to a Jose Perez from any other Leicester mid. So you can easily put a different one in, and then if he is firing, just downgrade to a Jose Perez, because no good Leicester option will be under the Jose Perez's price in midfield.
Yeah, what I was going to say actually as well is with Perez, I mean, they must have signed him to get goals, because looking at the stats earlier, Vardy got 18 last season. So the second highest scorer was Maddison with 7. So there is.
Do you think they're buying Perez as a backup striker almost for Vardy?
I don't think, not for that kind of money. I don't.
So yeah, it's a lot of money for a backup striker.
Yeah,
well, I mean, like maybe play 2 up top with both of
possibly.
them.
I mean, Perez is quite versatile, isn't he? Because he can play as like an attacking mid as well. He's not an out-and-out striker like Vardy is. So yeah, it's difficult to know how they'll fit him in. But like I said, I think they rely so heavily on Vardy to get goals. He's maybe turning 33 soon. I don't know how old he is, 32, 33. So yeah, they definitely need someone else to chip in with a few goals, I think.
Yeah.
And Perez could be that guy,
I think he might take Gray's spot. And then if Vardy gets injured, then he can, of course, take Vardy's spot.
Yeah, true.
That's my assumption, because I don't think Rodgers is going to change the tactic too much, because the way they've been playing has really worked. So I don't think they're going to change it. So I think he's been brought in to play on the wing. I think he likes Harvey Barnes. Not that I am particularly fond of him after I took a risk on him last season and then just watched all the rest of the Leicester players get points apart from Barnes. But I think he really likes Barnes. So I think Barnes and Perez on the wings, potentially. And then, of course, Perez can take that forward role if Vardy can't play for some reason.
Yeah, if looking at the squad, you've got Gray and Barnes, like you said, and other than those two wingers, I mean, they've got Albrighton, but I think, and no disrespect to Albrighton, he played a big part in their title-winning season, but I think Rodgers probably thinks he wants someone of a bit better caliber maybe than Albrighton. So, yeah, aside from Gray and Barnes, there's no kind of really good backup or even someone competing with them for the wingers role. So Perez can definitely fit in there as well, I think,
Yep, for sure. I think it's definitely a team we're all considering, we're all looking at. Then none of us are completely shooing any options from Leicester.
No, it's not like 100%, but obviously fresh in the mind, and I don't think any of us will know for sure until like a day before game week 1, probably. But yeah, they're definitely appealing options. I'm definitely considering them.
Yeah, I think that some of the signings are looking interesting out there. It'll be good to see if they hold on to Maguire as well and see whether he gets shifted on or not. So. Okay, are we all right there? Are we looking any better now?
I'm not going to lie, I've stopped trying to figure it out, because everything I'd have to try would involve stopping the stream.
There's no complaints in the chat, so I'm assuming guys if you're in the chat and there's something going on the screen, just let us know.
The quality is all good, so you can put us down and do other things.
Beautiful faces, the graphics are lovely, and the audio is actually good. It's just not in time.
Okay, all right, cool. Oh, sorry about this, guys. we are trying our best with all of this. By next time, hopefully, have it sorted.
Not, we've been working on this all day.
Yeah, and us, it wouldn't be quite us if we didn't go without a few glitches. So
only Kurt's perfect.
We'll have it sorted. It's all Kurt's fault.
What else do you need, really?
So at this point, I'll say, if you're enjoying the stream, please like and subscribe. Something funky should happen on screen if you do.
We've had a subscriber, so if they've been paying attention,
they've seen it. Cool. Good times.
I haven't been paying attention then. Oh,
Kurt, we didn't pay you to pay attention. Come on.
One of my weaknesses, that paying attention.
Cool. Right, let's move on to some promoted gems, shall we? Last year we had a plethora of gems from Wolves in Doherty, Jota, and Jimenez, to name a few. Myself and Jay have shared out the promoted side in some videos. Jay has his out already, and I have mine coming out soon. Brett is also covering some of these sides on his channel. So between the three of us, you should get lots of information. But if you had to choose one player, lads, who can it be this season that'll be the cheap gem? Who do you reckon it's going to be? So who wants to go first here? Jay?
Oh, why
Should we ask
first?
Jay first?
I,
Okay. Brett looks
Brett
prized
wanted
to
to come
go,
in.
so maybe we
He's
should
literally
let him
just
go
done a
first.
video on one of the teams, so he
I
it's fresh in his mind.
I've literally spent all weekend, admittedly, I didn't watch much of the Championship last year, and I think because I'm so obsessed with FPL, it's all about the Premier League. And because Cardiff City were in the Premier League, which is a club that I followed for quite a while, I didn't have to watch the Championship last year. So I spent all weekend studying lots of stats about the three promoted clubs. And so there's definitely a few players that are kind of on my mind now as budget enablers for sure. So I don't know if I can kind of cover a few or not here. In terms of a potential explosive option, I've picked out Emiliano Buendia of Norwich, the winger at 6 million. 8 goals and 12 assists last season. He was third for chances created amongst the entire league, actually, as well. I think he's 21, 22 years old, so very young, still bags of talent. And Norwich as a team scored 93 goals last year. So that's the highest amount of goals in the Championship since 5 years ago when Bournemouth got 98. So a lot of goals in this Norwich team. And the stats suggest they like to attack first and defend later. There are so many goals from midfield in Norwich. And I think this Buendia, not that I've watched him personally too much, so I'm only going off numbers, a bit of Moneyball going on here. But Buendia definitely looks quite an exciting option. And just very quickly, the second option at 5 million, which is bargain bin territory, I've picked out Oliver Norwood of Sheffield United. Spent a lot of time looking at Sheffield United, and Norwood was above Buendia for chances created, second in the league amongst all positions for chances created for Oliver Norwood. 9 assists and played almost every game, and 2 goals as well, or 2 or 3 goals, and he's on set pieces, a bit of a set piece specialist. So at 5 million, I mean, because so many players are quite overly priced this year, he kind of feels like one of the best 5 million options I can see, really. The only drawback is 11 yellow cards. But they're my 2 picks that I think could be very good value from the promoted teams.
I picked out the defender Ender Stevens at 5 mil for Sheffield United. He got 20 clean sheets, 4 goals and 6 assists for Sheffield in the Championship last season. And I have it on good authority that Stevens has the potential to be this season's Matt Doherty. He gets very far forward apparently, and is likely why he's priced 5 million for a defender, which in my eyes feels a little steep for a promoted.
Such a shame.
Yeah.
I was really hoping before the game got launched that Stevens would be 4.5, really.
Yeah, same.
I can see why, but
yeah, it's a shame because there's just no progression, is there? So unless they're going to be more strict with the price rises and price drops this season, which is, they change every season, so that could potentially be an option, that they, are a lot more kind of sharp rises and sharp falls,
Billy Sharp.
Hey, yeah. So at the moment, there just doesn't feel like there's any progression for him. I mean, if he starts the season well, then I mean, we could be looking at a 6 mil defender within any time. Do you know what I mean? Which just seems madness, really. Nonetheless, if we were to keep Endo Stevens in contention, let's say, and consider his comparisons Doherty, he is 0.5 less than Doherty with the same goals and 1 less assist. So if you compare the two of them, he could be a one to watch, really, based on those stats.
Yeah, 3 home games in the opening 5 as well. Decent
Yeah.
looking home fixtures for Sheffield United. So, and they had the strongest defence last season in the championship. So
Premier League is a big step up, though,
it's
isn't
a
it?
big
Let's
step
be
up.
honest.
It's a massive step up.
We gotta. It'll be difficult. I think it's going to be a bit of a case of, do we risk it and hang our hat on some of these players early doors in the hope that, we get a bit of a bargain like last season with Wolves? Or were we just quite lucky with Wolves last season? Because I remember getting Jota right at the beginning. He was like in my starting team and nothing, cricket. I'd literally got the wrong one. So I think based on that, it's really difficult to know whether to kind of splash your cash in them, from the off. So Jay, thoughts? Are we okay to come back to you now?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, the issue I have is, unless there's a player that offers me the exact value I'm looking for, which is about as cheap as you can get for a player, I don't really like to go for the promoted side. So last year with Wolves, I did risk on Jota, but that's because I thought there was enough data to actually back up the decision to put him in. But as far as defenders went, I went for Bennett because he was 4 million. That's exactly the price I wanted for my 5th defender, and he was playing. The fact that I think the game, or FPL as a company, have decided to make sure attacking defenders have been priced higher, which is annoying. I get why they've done it, but I think when you've got teams being promoted that we have no idea how well their defence is actually going to do in the Premier League, I think it's a bit too much to give a defender from one of those teams a 5 million price tag, even if they are or do bring an attacking threat, because for all we know he will get the same amount of goals and assists, but Norwich will just concede all over the place. So value wise, 5 million is too much. If I was going to put my hat on anyone, if I had to put someone in my side and go, I think they're going to score points, it would probably be Pookie from Norwich, just because if you score that many goals in the Championship, you're going to score goals in the Premier League. Probably not as many, but I just think Norwich are the side that if I was going to look at a side and think attacking wise they can do something in the Premier League, they're the ones I'd probably look at for actually.
It's the goals scored that makes them tempting, because like with Bournemouth, for example, I was saying, I mean, it was 5 seasons ago now, but they got 98 goals in the Championship that year, and they still produce a lot of goals now, don't they? They don't defend well, but they like to attack and score. And Norwich got 93 goals, so it's like, they might, even against like big teams, they might lose like Bournemouth do, but Wilson can still grab a goal or two, and Pookie could be that guy that does the same.
Yeah, for sure. Kurt?
Well, trying to be as unbiased as possible for one of the scummy teams that have gone up. There are a few good options for, the way I look at it, from every single promoted side. I, as of yet, I have one in Tim Krul from Norwich, just simply because that's an extra 4.5 million goalkeeper. There's not too many, and he'll make a lot of saves in my eyes, and that's all that matters. He'll be swapping and changing, and I probably will end up with a set and forget keeper and get it wrong like the Haya last year. But starting on Sheffield United, it's awkward because the way they played last season, having watched both of the derbies, is that they pushed the wing backs up, but then they'd push the right and the left centre back up as well, and sort of have them going all the way around. So the way they defended a lot, well, from what I saw of them, was they'd push teams so far back and have 6 of their defence players on the back line that they didn't have enough to counter attack. I think with the pace and the skill in Premier League, the bigger teams will shut them down. But when you come up against the likes of Bournemouth, they could potentially be in a good position. I think Stevens is priced a bit too much, 4.5 or nothing for me. However, for Sheffield United, John Fleck, I quite like the looks of. He was I liked him when he played against us twice in the Steel City derbies, and I think he could be a one to look out for. But me being a Sheffield Wednesday fan, none of them offer any quality. Don't listen to me.
Just quickly, sorry, Kurt, but yeah, with John Fleck, he was the highest assist maker in Sheffield United last season, 10 assists for John Fleck, and he's 5 million as well. played almost every game. So similar stats to Norwood, basically, but Norwood's just on set pieces, a bit more chances created.
Yeah.
And just with Tim Krul, and FPL Tips has mentioned this in the chat as well, they have signed a new keeper on loan from Schalke, Ralph Farman.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of uncertainty of a Krul starting place there. So I'd be careful with that because
Yeah, I didn't
Norwich-
realise that in that case. No, Krul's not an option. I think Farman will come in as a first team goalkeeper.
Yeah, but like you said with saves, I mean, Krul he had the third most saves last year. He made a lot of saves, which is always good in FPL. But yeah, some uncertainty there over his starting place.
In terms of Norwich, I think going into defence, one player that I'm really keeping an eye on at the moment, and it probably will take the place of Charlie Taylor, is I'm assuming I can shorten his name, but Maxi Aarons, really young defender.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think 4.5 million. I think that's the steal from any team, because if he plays like he looks like he can do, he was phenomenal last year, and he looked it's a weird one. He looks a bit like Ryan Sessegnon. When I watched Ryan Sessegnon against Sheffield Wednesday, he tore us apart. He was so much more skilled, and I think Aarons has got so much potential. He's only young as well. I don't know how young, but I still think he's in his teens, potentially.
19 at the moment, yeah.
19. So
he did well enough for Man United to consider him when they were worried about getting Wan-Bissaka. So he's definitely doing something right if Man United are looking at him as a replacement for Wan-Bissaka, who of course did amazing last season. So yeah, I have to agree with you there. Definitely an option at that price.
Yeah, and with Farman, if he potentially comes in at 4.5, that could be quite a nice option. But I get a sneaky feeling, because he's come from a rather big German side, he might get 5 million, which would be a bit of a shame.
Yeah,
but
Schalke Champions League experience for that goalkeeper there. So yeah, I'd be worried that he'd come in at 5 as well.
And I think 5 is far too expensive.
Yeah.
4.5 for someone of his calibre, that could be a good one. And Aston Villa, one to look out for, which as yet hasn't got a price because he's only just signed, is Tyrone Mings. Completely ran the show, looked phenomenal. Well, in my opinion, for Aston Villa last season. But I've got a feeling he'll come in at 5 million. I do think they've overspent on him personally, but he offers good potential, good going forward, good with the ball. He could play centre back or left back, but he is also injury prone, and he's shown that in his career previously. But going on to right backs, again, to get a budget one there, El Mohammadi, I quite like the looks of. He's got decent-ish potential that he's shown beforehand. Getting he's got 3 seasons under his belt. He's not the best, not going to score you a lot of points, but 2 goals, 2 assists, 2 goals, 5 assists. 0 goals, 2 assists in that poor Hull City season where they got demolished a lot of the time. I think he's another one that could be quite a dark horse.
Yeah, I've looked at him, and he does seem like a decent option. Good stats last year, I think like 7 assists maybe. Played out of position, a lot of experience. He knows the league. He's been there a lot of times, and for Egypt in like his last 3 or 4 internationals, he's got like 3 goals. He's in a bit of good goal scoring form. Yeah, Al Mohammadi scored quite a few in this last couple of internationals. So, a decent shout at 4.5, I think, for him. He's kind of the. If I was looking at Aston Villa defender, it would be him, I think.
Yeah, potentially even Matt Targett could be an out there thing. He's got the years of experience at Southampton, never really playing first team, but he played the most minutes last season. 1 goal, 3 assists in just over 1,000 minutes. So that could be another one. And I think in terms of the 3, I always like to look at where they're signing players from. What clubs are signing players from? Norwich, to bring in a goalkeeper from Schalke, that's big. I think Villa are spending big money and in the right places. They've got a good new striker in. I think they've got one of the best championship players in Jota from Birmingham, quite controversially. But I do worry, and this is trying to be unbiased again, that with Sheffield United, that their signings are coming from championship teams. And it could work in the long run because they're signing championship players. If they go down, then they're still not going to be looking at offloading a lot of their squad. But the players they've signed, Freeman has come from QPR, I think, and I don't see him as a Premier League quality player. Jagielka, a very faded and aging Jagielka. Again, another player that's probably only going to be...
nobody's got the moves like Jaggers.
But Yeah, I think that the signings for me for Sheffield United worry. If they bring in a few more Premier League quality players, maybe, but where they're sourcing the players from is a big worry, and I think that could impact in the performance of the others.
Cool. So at this point, do we have any questions from the chat, Brett?
Yeah, we got some questions. So Phil Potter would like to know, Kurt, are we no Salah again this year?
Hey, Phil.
Well, I've actually got Salah in my team. I know.
Oh.
It is big. It is big. To be honest, the more I think about it, the more the Salah thing from last season just got blown way out of proportion. It all started me saying that Mane's got more price than Salah. I ended up saying that I've been kidnapped by him. I just forgot where it came from. But I looked at both of them because I think you have to have Liverpool assets, and Mane's just 1 million shorter. So Salah's got to be the one now. When Mane was a lot cheaper last season at 9 million or 9.5, whatever he started at, the value was easy to see. And I think over the course of the season, I think he produced more value for his price tag. But now Salah's gone down a bit. Mane's gone up a lot. Salah's the only option for me. So we're back to being friends. I think he's given me a Facebook friend request. I just need to accept it. But yeah, we are Mo Salah, not No
I
Salah.
thought we made some sort of deal in a taxi after the FPAs that this was never going to happen. So this could be the end of days right now, is all I'm saying.
Anyways, I'd like to announce this is my last stream. I'm going to go and delete my
Kurt
FPL account and
is
never.
parting ways with the FPL WildCats. We're looking for a new member. So, anyone who doesn't have Salah in their teams, you could be you could be joining the FPL
Anyone who
WildCats.
hates Salah,
So we're keeping Kurt. For now,
Oh,
that's
okay.
his saving grace.
Yes, for now. The minute I'm out of sync next stream, that's it. Gone. Deleted midway through the stream.
All right, I've got a question from Tips here. It's for Nim. Nim, he wants to know, can we ignore Kane at 11 million, which is obviously quite good value for Kane, considering past seasons. Surely he's the most favorably priced premium player.
Yeah, it's difficult. They've got a couple of good fixtures, Spurs. My worry is whether Eriksen stays. So I'm not too sure on this new signing. I don't really know how he's going to fit in. But we've seen Kane tracking back a lot last season, didn't we? Especially towards the end of the season. He was having to go backwards to create all the play, to pass the ball forward for other people, your likes of Mora and Sonny, who were, mopping up the goals. And I think if they take Eriksen out of that equation, depending on where this new fella fits in, I think that could make life difficult for Kane because he'll only do more of that. Now, I think that Pochettino's aware of the fact that Kane is needing to do more of this and so can't be his kind of out-and-out striker and be the person that people can pass the ball to. So I think he'll look to correct that this season. Thing is, will Kane hit the ground running? I think is probably the biggest question for all of us. Do we kind of get on him all early doors, or do we have somebody more expensive? My case, possibly Aguero. I don't know why I said possibly, because there's probably no possibly about it. But having somebody more expensive that we can move to Kane if we want to afterwards. Is he the most reasonably priced? I don't know, actually. I really don't. I think there could be some other options out there. Your likes of Vardy, maybe. Firmino, he had a bit of a quiet season last season. Could this be a comeback season for him? Jesus scoring in the cup, the AFCON. Yeah, the Copa America. Maybe he could end up coming in and playing off the left, which could be quite interesting. He could be another add-in. So, will I be starting with Kane? It's looking unlikely at the moment, which hurts me to say. But yeah, I would love both Aguero and Kane at the start, but I don't think I'm going to be able to afford it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to look past Sterling and Salah in midfield. So if you've got those two,
I don't have Sterling right now.
Wow. And then it's a bit easier for you to get Kane then, I would imagine. For me, it just
Well,
seems impossible.
I've got Aguero and KDB slash Bilva at the moment.
Okay.
So, because Bernardo Silva and Aguero got more points than Sterling last season. I know it's taking up 2 spots, but, I'm kind of hoping that I might be able to squeeze KDB where Bilva is, but I want to see how he does preseason first. So,
Any consideration for Kane, Jay?
Well, just to help with Ndombele, he's more likely to play as a centre mid or a defensive centre mid than he is to be further forward. So
he would take maybe Eriksen's spot.
He's more likely to be in the kind of Dembele mould than like Eriksen mould.
Okay.
So he's not. He could play the proper all-out central defensive midfielder, but I'm not sure that's how he's going to be played at Spurs. He got 1 goal and 7 assists in Ligue 1 last season. So I think the idea behind him is to free up the likes of Dele Alli and Kane to play a bit more forward. The general consensus I've seen around Spurs fans on Twitter is the fact that they think they're going to be more defensively solid with this addition, which should free up the attacking players. So for me, I still don't want Eriksen to go because, of course, chance created wise, Eriksen is a great player to create chances for other players around him. But I do think potentially Kane could be freed up. But there is always the August curse. Let's see if he can score in August this season. But Kane just seems too injury prone for me. He seems to always be one of those players, if you bring him in, you've got to worry about what is your move if he does get injured. And because of that, with Champions League as well, again, I'm just worried that he's going to be running to the ground again. Meanwhile, you've got the likes of Aubameyang and Aguero, who, again, while they can get run into the ground a bit as well, it just doesn't seem to be as big an issue as it is with Kane. But this is the first time I think Kane's had a good amount of time off in the summer. So I'll be keeping an eye on him. But I think...
Did you own him at all last
at
season?
all.
Did you own him
Not
once? Not at all.
Once. Even
That's
that
mad.
Cardiff one where everyone brought him in, I was like...
Yeah, I
'cause
remember
it
that
felt
one.
such
Yeah.
a 1 week transfer for me, which is why I didn't do it.
I didn't get him then
And
either.
so I was just like...
You made the right call, mate. We get it. We get it.
To be honest, I think a lot of people are still...
We've heard this before.
A lot of people still think I didn't make the right call, because if he had gone nuts, I'd have been sitting there like, oh, great. Because everyone did it as well, so there's something to say about if everyone is making that move. If you don't make that move and it does go the way everyone thinks it goes, that's a massive drop in rank potentially. So it was a risk. It could have gone the other way. I wouldn't want to say
Calculated
risk that I can now brag about, but it could have quite easily been something I was crying about. So, but yeah, I think Kane's definitely one to watch. Just he wouldn't be in my first draft. He wouldn't be in my first game week 1 team.
But I might have said just ignore Kane altogether and go with Sonny, but I didn't actually realise until today that he was 9.5 in the official game. So plus he misses the first match due to suspension. So I'm like, wow, that really puts me off. Getting Sonny and even just benching him for 1 week. That's quite a step up. I think it might have been nicer to have him around the maybe 8.5 mark. I think.
I'm interested in Dele Alli at 8.5. Potentially, if he is freed up, because I think Ali was also one that had to do a lot more defensively than potentially.
I remember pitting him late last season and saying watch out because he could go big now, and it just never came, did it? It just didn't transpire for him because they just Kane and Ali and people like that were doing all the creating for your Moras and your Sunnies, So
yeah.
Kurt, thoughts on Kane? Are you still with
Not
us?
in August.
Not in August.
Yeah, no, I didn't really own Kane at all last year, so I couldn't speak too much on it. No, not in August, and it's an odd one. I think it's a shame, but
Villa at home, first game of the season.
That's the issue, isn't it? Is that game? It's like if that game wasn't if that game was in September,
Yeah.
bring Kane in then. But that game is just like so tempting to have a Spurs option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's the August curse. All the similar things, and I think he could be needing a rest. Maybe take the first game off or the first few games off, just simply because
After the whole summer off.
He's not used to that much time off. He might have hurt himself.
not to be meaning any sort of harm by it, but I think you look at his performances throughout the season, and every time he gets a chance, he finishes it. But you look at the UEFA Nations League, you look at the Champions League final. That's a man who wanted desperately to play, but pushed himself far too quickly and far too early back from an injury, because you could tell, and it was the same, to be fair, in the Champions League final, the same with Bobby Firmino. They were not ready to come back yet, because you looked at the performance and Firmino did nothing and Kane did nothing, and then Kane proceeded to try and play for England in the Nations League, and again didn't watch the entirety of the game. I missed the first sort of 20, 25 minutes. He didn't look like the Kane that was banging in goals for the season. So, and the season itself wasn't his best. Still a good season, 17 goals, but his last 5 seasons he got 20 plus goals, and he didn't reach that this season. Had an injury, but he had an injury in a previous season and got 29 goals. Only played less minutes by 100 of his first, big breakout season. Scored 21 in that season. I just feel Harry Kane may need a few games to sort of retune his equipment before he's fit and firing. Taking August, so.
Yeah, Brian Yule in the chat does bring up that he's obviously plays Villa at home, which is great, but then Man City away in the second fixture, so that kind of levels it out a little bit, makes it less appealing, obviously.
For that, got Newcastle at home, which is really appealing again. So
yeah, swings and roundabouts.
Rotate with Aguero, it's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In game week 2.
Note, I do feel really sorry.
Do the hokey cokey, just transfer him in and out.
Moura not playing in the Champions League
my
was a travesty.
25 million rotation machine.
Jay, did you just mention Moura then? Sorry.
I mean, there is a question about Moura somewhere in there as well.
There is. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, FPL Oz is asking about what we think about Lucas Moura. So what do you reckon, Jay?
I mean, his performances every now and again are just like, it just seems like a completely different player. He sometimes turns up and does amazing, and
it's like the epitome of explosive.
Exactly.
He can be explosive on his day. Yeah.
Main point is, I think it's a travesty that he didn't play in the Champions League final after getting them there.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
I get Kane's their main player, and Kane wanted to play, but I just think Moura should have been in that starting lineup. For me, what is his price? What is Moura's price? I'm trying to have a look without making it obvious.
I'm going to guess 7.5.
Yeah.
I think at 7.5, if you accept the fact that he's someone you're going to have to just wait to have those explosive game weeks, if you think the other players around him can carry him until he has that big game week, I think potentially is an option. But of course, there's always the worry that if Eriksen does stay, how much game time is he going to get? If Eriksen goes, I'd suggest that his game time, unless they bring in someone else, might increase. And if Eriksen left, I'd potentially be looking at someone like Moura.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that obviously Son is suspended for the first game, so you kind of feel Lucas will definitely play that Villa fixture. But I guess then when Son comes back, it's difficult to say who will start,
Yeah, sorry, I was just reading because FPL Nick did a thread on Moura, so who got the assist, make sure you go check them out. And Nick said there seems to be a lot of hype about Harry Kane and fitting him in as 11 mil differential against City pool players for game week 1. Moura is being overlooked, 7.5 million mid that finished strongly with hat-tricks against Huddersfield and Ajax. Son suspended, so he will start game week 1. Great way for Spurs cover. That's a 3.5 mil saving on Kane for a player who finished more explosively and gets an extra point per goal and also a point per clean sheet. The blanks or is dropped can easily be a straight swap for the likes of Fraser, and you don't have to make premium sacrifices from Pool or City. So that's what he had to say, Spurs fan himself. So
Yeah, just looking as well, and Son's actually suspended for the first 2 games.
Oh, it's 2
Granted,
games.
the
Okay,
second
cool.
game is Man City away, so it's not like the
So
juiciest of
everyone's
fixtures.
just
Everyone's just like, yeah, he's
ignoring
only
that
spending one game.
yeah.
No one put him against Man City.
But that kind of gives Lucas the chance to play 2 games, you would imagine, and if he plays well in those 2, then that is a chance to sort of cement his place in the side then. So
Yeah.
if you're looking for a cheap way in, he's your man, you know. He's the cheapest of the kind of viable midfield options, you know, assuming you're not going to go for like someone Ndombele who's more defensive, that kind of thing. Yeah, 7.5 is the cheapest way in to get an attacking Spurs option. So if you're not convinced on other 7 million options, maybe you don't fancy Zaha, or maybe you want to sacrifice Sigurdsson, Lucas Moura could kind of fit in there.
Cool.
Not for me though. I don't fancy it personally.
we got a bit burnt by Lucas last season, didn't we? So
Yeah.
it makes it more difficult, I think. We owned him for a very, very long time during the season and got like 1 assist from him, I think. So I think maybe we might need to see a bit of preseason action from him to kind of spur us on a little bit. Spur us on. Didn't even mean to do that. Okay, I've got one here. Outside of Liverpool and Man City, the top 6 left a lot to be desired for last season, especially for consistent FPL options. Apart from those that did perform, who could emerge from these sides this year as good assets, do we think? So, Kurt, outside of Man City and Liverpool in the top 6, who are you punting for?
I'll check off. So are we also discounting the ones that performed?
Yeah, so
Because I've got Aubameyang and Rashford in my team, but I'm not going to mention them because they were pretty good throughout the season. Maybe I'm going to chuck off one just because I'll be that guy. Actually, I'll leave him. Everyone's going to mention him. I'll leave him. If he doesn't mention, I'll be mentioning it. But
no, this is your only chance. If he doesn't get mentioned, that's it.
Well, I'll take that risk.
Confident.
I'll go to Chelsea. Jorginho potentially. However much VAR impacts the season, we don't know. But he'll be on penalties, even if his penalty thing is a weird, silly hop, skip, and a jump before he kicks it. He'll be on penalties unless Lampard changes anything. I do quite like the looks of Azpilicueta at 6 million. Lampard coming in 4-4-2. Yeah, exactly, Brett. A good value, and I think he's consistent club captain. Will play every game he can, and I think you look at his playing time the last season. He's missed 1 game in the last 2 seasons and didn't miss any the season before that. So he is consistent, and he's versatile. He can play anywhere. For Arsenal,
could this be the comeback for Arsenal? Yes, please. Sorry, I was going to say, could this be the comeback for Golonzo underneath Frankie Lampard? Just imagine.
If Emerson wasn't there, maybe, but I don't know who he'll pick. Maybe he could siphon between them because neither of them have really got a sort of that world class sort of a persona, I suppose, that other players have. And I think with Azpilicueta, you get good, consistent defensive performances, whereas Emerson showed he can be part of a 4-0 whitewash. Alonso showed he can just go absolutely vacant for months on end and not do anything. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're sort of chopped for change, but I could be. I probably am.
But you're predicting Azpilicueta to Arsenal. Okay, yeah, I like that. We'll take that. Thank
With
you.
Arsenal's defence, of course he would.
We take anything right now.
What I will pick potentially for a good season, he's in my team, and it's one of the risky picks I've got. Is Maitland-Niles. My defence has Maitland-Niles and Ritchie, which is 2 teams really I shouldn't be having a defender for, especially considering Newcastle are all at sea and Ainsley, Maitland-Niles is Arsenal are away to Newcastle, which means
At least
that they
go for Shah if you're going to go for Newcastle.
Don't go for
Shah,
Newcastle.
dude.
Just don't. They're a shambles at the moment.
All that.
Well, with Jose Perez gone, Ritchie could be the most attacking midfielder there, and he's a £5.5 million defender. But onto Arsenal anyway.
Five mil for
Maitland-Niles,
Shah,
if he
though.
starts
5
getting
mil.
his playing time at 5 million, it's a steal. It's an absolute steal. And I think, granted, he won't get the clean sheets, but he'll get the attacking returns. He'll be a left wing back. He'll be a midfielder. And 5 million for an Arsenal potentially wing back or midfielder, I don't think it's too bad. It's a risky one, nonetheless. But it's a risk I think is worth taking.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's a differential, I would say, but that position change has definitely made him a tempting one. Not so much for clean sheets. Arsenal were pretty woeful defensively last season, especially away from home. But yeah, I mean, where was Maitland-Niles playing last year? Like right wing back, right full back, that kind of thing. I mean,
back, left wing back.
Obviously, Bellerin was injured, but Bellerin's maybe can it come back now? Can that push Maitland-Niles forward a bit more? He could be an option as a wide player. Obviously we've got Reece Nelson as well, but there's a chance there that Maitland-Niles could be playing out of position potentially. I think so not one that I would start the season. Definitely one to keep an eye on because that position change could help him.
Yeah. I have written down at 6 mil if he's back from injury, Hudson-Odoi.
There we go. I didn't need to mention him, did I? No.
Well, I actually had him in my team last season, which I towards the end of the season, which I know was a massive punt, but I did catch a bit of his haul before he got injured. So he did get 1 goal and 2 assists in 388 minutes, which it's not a massive amount, but as we know, he did get struck by injury. So who knows what will happen when he's up and running and feeling better. 5 mil would have felt better, I think, for him.
I was going to say this, just sorry to interrupt him, but 388 minutes played. He got 18 points.
I know.
He ended the season at 4.2 million. And just because Hazard's left, they slapped a 6 million price tag on him. Yeah. That's so frustrating.
Agreed. Because I definitely was the first place. I did a preseason lineup of what team I would like, depending on what the prices might be.
Yeah.
Probably should have shared that actually, because people might have found it interesting how horribly wrong I got it. But no, I didn't. But I can't afford a lot of those players. And Hudson-Odoi was definitely in there as that kind of 4th/5th midfielder spot. And now at that price, he'd be moved into that definite kind of maybe 3rd, 4th midfielder spot. And you do need to see a lot from a player, I think, for that price. And we need to know that injury isn't going to now be something that, will keep bothering him in the future. But if it doesn't, and he does get the chance to kick on, we could all be saying, what a bargain.
Yeah, 100%.
We wouldn't be paying that for Hazard. Do you know what I mean? So I think given the prices this season, they're definitely going to be way more strict on their price rises and price falls. And I think the targets for the drops will be smaller, and I think the targets for the rises will be smaller. So I think we will see a lot of change in the prices this season for sure. It's just a guess. But I think
it's too stressful.
It is stressful for sure. But
Christmas Day price drop last year. Alonso dropped 0.1 mil on Christmas Day, so I couldn't afford someone else then.
Obviously
that
not committed
ruined
enough.
my transfer.
Not committed enough.
That changed my season. I missed out on Pogba because of that price drop on Christmas Day. What the hell? They should not Christmas Day. Pause the game on Christmas Day.
I don't think there should be any at all over the weekend. So I think once the first game is on of a weekend or midweek, it should be paused and then restarted again when there's a sufficient amount of games to be played, so that we're not there after a whole game day of football, having to check the price rises. I mean, it's just bonkers sometimes. You're there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, do I make a transfer?
I know. Relatable.
FPL third world problems.
Yeah.
So the other one, obviously, to mention would have been Zaha, 7 mil midfielder now. Obviously, he will be at Arsenal before the start of the season. 10 goals and 11 assists in the last 3,037 minutes. It's all a ruse. We've got loads of cash.
You do. You're just not using it.
Obviously, if we ignore Aubameyang and Lacazette, based on fixtures, Arsenal have a mixed start. Newcastle, Burnley, Liverpool, Spurs in the first 4. So maybe see who we get signed first. As Kurt said, some of those big hitters could be worth it. It would be just like us to sign a Zaha when we really do need a defender. But I did actually see a possible loan deal for Ozil today in the works.
Who wants Ozil?
Hang on, let me find the tweet.
Brentford.
That's gonna like, is it some championship side? And they're like, Arsenal, you can pay the wages.
As long as Arsenal play Reece Nelson throughout the season, that's all I care about. And he could be a bargain. Like, they haven't priced him yet, but if he comes in like 5.5 and he actually plays, I really like Reece Nelson. So, providing he gets minutes.
Fenerbahce.
Oh,
yeah. They've just got to work out the wages and bonuses, but and Ozil wages and bonuses, that's never going to happen. So, but if we could work something out, which means Ozil leaving, I should, try and stay as on the fence as possible. But if that could happen, that would be really great. And then we'd have some money, which would also be really great.
We won't spend.
Yes, which would also be terrible. Okay, so did anyone else want to chip in with anybody? Kurt, you've gone. Jay, anybody
only
you
one I
wanted
haven't
to
mentioned is
mention?
maybe Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I don't think he was mentioned. But I think Chelsea are the side that I'll be watching with the hope that Lampard comes in and they do really well. And if they do start doing really well, they've been priced very low. So, and maybe, I suppose, is it James from Man United? It'd be interesting to see what he does, but I'm not that interested as I am in the Chelsea options. And then Chelsea's defence, very good, because I think after Liverpool, Man City defenders, I think the next 3 were Chelsea defenders. So,
what do we think of Wan-Bissaka now as an option then at United? Eager to prove himself, 5.5, 3 assists, obviously 12 clean sheets with Palace. Anybody interested? At the moment, he's in my first draft, but
not for me.
I'm keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, same. I'll keep an eye on him, but I almost feel like the move could potentially hurt him because at Palace, because of his performances, he was almost guaranteed bonus points at certain times. Even when they conceded, he was one of those defenders that get bonus points no matter what. I feel like at Man United, potentially, that might not be the case. And also, until I see some more signings at United for their defence, I still don't think he can just turn that defence around by himself.
Yeah.
Cool. Do we have a question from the chat then, Brett?
This is a good one for Jay, actually. Jay, you're a West Ham fan, right?
West Ham follower is the official
follower.
AFC Wimbledon fan, West Ham follower.
So there's a question for you. I hope I pronounced this guy's name right. I think it's Mahfouz. He wants to know your thoughts on West Ham, basically. I mean, there's quite a lot of, tempting options from them at the moment. With the Fornals, the new signing, Anderson as well. Granted, he was a bit of a troll, but he's still a quality player. What are your thoughts on West Ham?
My initial thoughts on Fornals was no, because I looked at his previous assists and goals, and it wasn't that great. But then in the Under-21 Championship, all I kept seeing was highlights on Twitter of Fornals scoring goals, and I was like, okay. So I'm interested, but with West Ham, I think is one of those clubs where unless it had really good fixtures, and not even that guarantees anything, they can go through patches where they're in great form, and then they could go through patches where they're in absolutely awful form. Of course, there was the season when we first got Payet, where we looked really good for a bit. But until I kind of get that feel that we're on for one of those good seasons, unless you're maybe looking at Mark Noble, if he's cheap enough because he's on penalties, I'm not too sure I'm really going towards them as a team that I want to back. Defensively, they do have some 4.5 million options, though, so I can see why people would be interested in their defence. I mean, Diop's a great defender. and I just feel like if we had better players around him, and to be honest, some of them could step up this season, but I do think Diop's a great defender. Not too sure about his attacking threat. And there's Fredericks. A lot of people like the look of Fredericks and think he could step up this season.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to know about some FPL assets from West Ham, I did just cover some of them in my last video. Small plug there.
Oh, nice.
6 teams to consider for the start of the season. So,
And which players did you include, Nim?
I did put the Trolley Anderson in there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think now off the top of my head. I can't remember. This is very late now. But I think I mentioned Declan Rice. He got a mention.
Okay.
Obviously, he's moved to midfield now, so I'm
Yeah,
not
it's a
sure
bit of a
what
shame.
kind of option that makes him.
Nice guy who lives in my area.
If I think
So, nice guy who lives in my area. Name drop.
Oh, nice. So Jay lives amongst the footballers. Now we know.
Only
now
one.
we know.
Right.
It's all right.
And Stormzy, but he's not a footballer.
Cool. If I think of any more, if they crop up, I'll let you know. Otherwise, check out the video. Okay. So, favorite mid-priced / budget options. We've kind of covered this. But did anyone else have any options in that kind of mid-priced budget options? So, Kurt, I think you're still with us down there. You're looking like we're losing you. You're fading. Come on,
It
dude.
is late.
Wildcats after
Sorry,
that.
I was just focusing on an email. Sorry, I'm miles away. I thought there was still a discussion going on. Sorry, I was absolutely miles away. There's no even.
I was checking emails.
Yeah, well, because of the stream issues, I had my PC issues. I couldn't do it before the stream, so I've sort of been fluttering in and out now.
You could have just said you were looking at
Yeah,
stats
exactly.
or something.
Come
You
on.
know, at least pretend. You know.
I was caught in the moment. I didn't realise. I'm not a quick
I was
thinker.
debating if I should really own Salah or not in my head. Come on.
I was just sitting there pressing delete and then bring back to club on the FPL. No, sorry, what was the question? Carry on.
Favorite. I'm not sure I should even tell him now. I should just tell him to answer it
just
again.
have a guess what the question was.
Yeah, just answer what you think it was.
I agree with everyone that Sheffield United will go down with 0 points. Is that correct?
I mean, I know that's correct for you.
No.
Close. Best mid-price or budget option player.
From any position or
Any
one
position, any team. Have the pick of what you like.
What? Yeah, I'll stray away from defenders because I've talked a lot about budget defenders. Having said that, yeah, would 6 million be classed as budget
I
forwards?
would
Yeah.
say so,
Or
yeah.
we said mid-price.
Yeah,
Go on, I'll
mid-price,
allow you.
mid-price.
I'll allow it.
Because apart from that, I've only got Stevens at 4.5. I've got a very budget defence and goalkeepers. 6 million, I've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin. At the moment,
Yeah.
I mean, I've already got one transfer that I didn't realise it had happened. But as far as I'm aware, they don't have any other strikers, and I don't think Cenk Tosun's as good. So I think it could be a breakout season for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He showed ifs and buts of a bit of class. 4 goals and 8 assists, 6 goals, 5 assists in the previous 2 seasons. I think he could be quite a good one, personally. He's in my team currently, and I think with Everton as well.
Kurt is that annoying person, isn't he, that doesn't do any research for his exams whatsoever and then just shows up and aces it with an ace star. Didn't even know the question. He's busting out stats for Calvert-Lewin. Love it.
What? I mean, going on to that, I don't look at any behind the scenes stats. I used to, but
I
every
emailed
time
him the stats. I just emailed him the
We
stats.
give him
as
the
well.
answers beforehand.
just slip it to me, being like, say this when I mention this, being like, oh, okay, and I forgot my cue. But no, I don't look at any behind the scenes stats. I don't look at that sort of touches in the area. I don't look at anything because I used to, when I first started doing the FPL YouTube properly, I did look at a lot of those stats. And every time I would, it would move my decision away, and I'd constantly be picking the wrong players. So now I literally just look at like my championship analysis is literally done on what I saw last season and price. That's all I've done it on. And then if I need to, I'll look at goals and assists because the end of the day, I think that's the only thing that matters. You can be in the right position, but if you can't score with your left, right foot, or even a header, it doesn't matter if you've
This probably explains why you're considering Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
You do know the stats that show how many shots they've got on target and how many big
I'm just
chances.
joking. Like Lotter in him is just I just wanted to drop that in. He's not on my radar personally, but so many people are considering him. Great fixtures, decent stats last year. You talk about underlying stats. Calvert-Lewin in the last couple of game weeks, lots of goal attempts, that kind of thing. So not concrete stats, not getting loads of goals, but a lot of attempts and that kind of stuff. So he's definitely an option. It's just not someone I'm considering. I don't think I can. I'm just never sold by Calvert-Lewin. He's just not clinical enough for me.
No, exactly. I've got to agree. Not clinical enough.
Okay.
Yeah, but fair enough. Also, maybe George. A couple of things I've covered over already. Jorginho from earlier because he's on penalties, and I can't remember his name, but the Aston Villa midfielder.
Grealish?
No, McGinn. I didn't mention McGinn earlier.
Yeah, 5.5.
But I think it's quite good, and the fact that he was linked with a however many £1 million move to Man United shows that he potentially does have the real deal. But he's only had one good season in the Championship. The rest of his time spent in the equivalent to like the Vanarama National Leagues in Scottish Premier League division. So we're yet to see if he can do it for a second season. But he showed a good side of himself last season.
So for me, I'm gonna fly the flag a bit for Milivojevic this season, on the big caveat, obviously, that Zaha stays with Palace.
Sure.
12
but Arsenal
goals.
are going to get him for definite.
Yeah, they are.
Well,
but
what are you telling this is for? No, joking.
Because when you're an Arsenal fan, you have to have a backup, and and this is the backup. If Milivojevic stays, 12 goals and 2 assists in FPL last season, he took 11 penalties and scored 10 of them, meaning only 2 of those goals were from open play. If VAR is to affect the Premier League, like many think it will this season, then Millie could be a shout. He quietly ticked away last season in my mini league rivals team for sure, and I barely considered him. I mentioned him a couple of times on here and completely ignored my own advice, but definitely a one to watch depending on the whole VAR situation. So that would be my kind of mid-priced budget. Well, budget, I don't know, but mid-price pick for sure.
Mid-priced is fair, yeah.
Cool. Should we have one question then from the chat, and we'll start to look to wrap it up, I think, because we're getting quite late now, and is it still a school night? Are people still at school, or is it summer break now? I don't know, but either way, people will have to go to work, I'm sure.
Well, what was your sort of budget breakout player, Jay? I mean, we didn't hear from you. Who are you thinking is a good value?
I don't like answering that before pre-season because it's just really difficult.
Yeah, that was why I didn't ask.
Yeah, Nim knew. I mean, for me, there is actually no one that really just jumps out budget-wise, like real budget-wise. I don't like the promoted sides. Even Milivojevic, if Zaha goes, I don't really like him anymore because Zaha would win a lot of those penalties. Townsend's one of those players that can tick over, but you'd have to literally again be putting him in your side and keeping him there all season long, which can be very difficult to do. I really think Chelsea are where the budget options could potentially be and the mid-price options could be if they do well. Yeah. And I think Man United, you could see a lot of their youngsters coming up. So I'm more of the mindset of keeping an eye on some of the bigger clubs who are going through a transition phase, and potentially one of those players could really come up and start performing. I think for FPL tips, I will mention McTominay because he's been saying it a lot in the chat. But yeah, I'm a wait and see. I'm a wait and see.
And obviously Wilson and King, we should probably give a shout out to them because they pretty much stayed around their normal price. I would
Wilson's
say
too expensive
for them,
now.
in terms of
Wilson's too expensive for the headache he'll give you. Because everyone knows what Wilson's like. You bring in Wilson and he will not score for you when you really think he should, and then he'll score for you when you bench him or you've transferred him out. So I think Wilson at 8, you're kind of hoping for a bit more predictability from an 8 million. Whereas I think King at 6.5,
I got King in
and he's
at
the
the
one
minute.
on penalties, VAR.
Yeah.
So I guess my shout's King then.
Yeah.
There you go. For a
Yeah.
budget
So
slash
got-
mid
I've got
I
price.
give
King
you
too.
your shout.
Well,
Well,
I
he's in
gave
my
you your
side
shout.
anyway. Like,
So I cured us to get on the stream tonight, and then you steal my pick. I see how
you
this
spoke
goes.
before me. You could have quite easily have said his name. Not my fault.
I just brought him up. Just say. Go on,
Yeah.
Brett.
I've got King 2 at the moment too, but I'm trying to. I would like to have Wilson as a set and forget, but even 8 million, like I have to downgrade elsewhere, and then to afford Wilson with my current team, I end up with 10 players because I'm getting rid of one like decent one to then afford Wilson. You know, so it's like King and somebody, or Wilson and nobody.
Out of
if you know
interest,
what I
what
mean.
is everyone's forward line?
King and Jota at the moment.
King,
for
Jota,
me.
and Long as my bench.
Oh, nice, 5 million. Good
King,
stuff. Bit of
Jota,
an option.
and Aguero.
Nice.
Rashford, Aubameyang, and Calvert-Lewin. It's worrying that I've got no one that anyone else has got.
That's what
It
makes it
could
fun,
be-
though,
could
bud.
be
We need you for
tired.
that. We need you
Look,
for the
I really like
different players.
Aubameyang, but I struggle to put him in when I'm looking at
I can't afford
Sterling
them. Yeah.
and Salah.
Yeah. Yeah, with the value players, I did write. We spoke about Hudson-Odoi, obviously. If he's back fit, I've got him on my team at the moment. Like, I'm hoping for the first game week, maybe he's back. You know, I'm really excited at him at 6 million. I do think Jota at 6.5 is still awesome value as well, because once he moved into the 3-5-2 and it was a striker with Jimenez, he just flourished there. He got so many points, you know. And even though Wolves have got this Europa League thing, which is a bit annoying, he's still young. And I always think if a player's had 2 amazing seasons and they're just getting better every year, like, you know, that there's no signs of regression there because he's still going to improve each year. So I'm hoping it's going to be an even bigger season for Jota. I think he could be great value.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can't leave our stream without having a Jeffers random
Oh, I forgot about
corner
this.
question.
Oh, no. I don't know what the question is either. I know you've told us.
For those of you that are new, Jeffers is a regular here, and almost every stream he's had a great random question for us. So that will continue on this season. And Jeffers' random question for us tonight was, which song could you happily never hear again? So, Kurt, if you could pick any song in the world, which song would it be that you'd never have to listen to again?
To avoid stirring controversy, I'll stop
Oh,
my
what?
first
No,
song.
no.
My other
It's
song
almost
No,
midnight,
come on,
mate.
we're
Come
way
on.
past the
is
watershed.
Yeah.
After dark. Give
Well,
us
I'm
some
gonna
controversy.
the one I'm going to say actually comes to the front. In my old job, I used to work in a small warehouse type building, and it
We're
was
getting a background with this as well.
yeah. And every the radio used to be on every single hour when I worked there. Megan Trainor's "All About My Bass" or "All About the Bass" would play literally on cue, on the hour, every hour. It would drive me insane. So I would mind if that song was deleted from the face of the earth.
Now you've just said it, I got it stuck in my
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. It's stuck in my head now. I've thought about it. Oh,
For
nightmares.
me, it would have to be Kate Bush, Wuthering Heights. My babysitter, when I was younger, that I had, just had a cassette tape. Yes, I'm that old. But she had it like constantly on loop, so she'd just like turn it around and have the same song on the other side, and literally just keep playing it back and back for about 5 hours straight. So it was enough to put anyone off of the song, and now I can't hear it without going, please just stop, no more. It's like some sort of torture chamber. So Brett, what would yours be?
There's lots, really. I mean, anything by Drake, I'd be happy not to hear again. That song, Robin Thicke, or whatever. That,
Oh, Blurred Lines.
yeah, Blurred Lines. I can't stand that one. But if I had to pick a winner, it would probably be the Happy Birthday song.
Wow, party
it's just-
pooper over here.
Yeah, it's just a Happy Birthday song. It's just like, Whenever
It's
anyone
my
sings
birthday
it,
next week. You're not going to sing it for me.
it's just
That's
no
it,
one,
we're streaming
no,
next
no one
week.
likes singing it today. It's cringy, isn't it? Like, and whoever's getting it sung for, you just have to stand there awkwardly, like, oh, thanks, you know.
Oh
Like,
no, I'm there like giving it. Come on.
Yeah, but to be
Uh,
fair, I know what you mean about getting it sung to you. If you're like
yeah,
at a
if you're in like
restaurant
a
or something,
restaurant
it's
or
like,
something, and
No,
it's just
I'm
like,
like
oh, please
louder.
no.
Come on, sing it properly. If you're gonna do it,
And then when it's someone else, and you've got to do
one more
it.
time.
Jay's like you in the corner.
You're
You're
not singing. I can see you hiding.
Take it for heart.
Yeah, that probably sounds like an old man thing to say, but I just find it really awkward. So don't need that song anymore. Let's get a
Okay.
new one. Let's create a new happy birthday song. More creative. It's just boring, that one, isn't it?
Okay, so we'll have to see if we'll put Jeff as, because he's quite good at this thing. Maybe he can make us a rap or something on the happy birthday song.
There you go.
There you go. Jay.
Well, anything by Jedward, because they're awful.
That's fair.
I know a song that will get on your
Kurt's
nerves.
favourite band
That's
right
pretty
there.
annoying.
You crushed his dreams.
I think though, if I had to pick one, although my kids love it, is Baby Shark.
I forgot about
Just,
that.
because once it's played once, that's it. It's getting played about 50 times, and you're not allowed as a father to not do the dance. And yeah, they can get rid of that tomorrow, please.
Wildcats behind the scenes, we all do Baby Shark as we head off.
Oh God! Do I have to teach you it all?
Cool. Okay. So I think we'll wrap it up there because we're all going a bit stir crazy now. I think it's been a very long evening for us. Thank you so much, everybody who joined. Really sorry about the sound being slightly out of sync with the video. We will try our best to get that sorted for you by next time. So I'll just throw it over to Jay to wrap up about, how you do getting in touch and staying in touch with us. And good night, everybody. Over to you, Jay.
Okay, guys, so you've got all of our social medias on the screen. Of course, please do subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell so you know when we're going live. We are trying to arrange a day where we'll be regularly going live, so please stay tuned for that. We'll also be announcing lots more details. For that, please do follow us on @FPL WildCats on Twitter. And of course, we will be trying to push and do stuff on our Instagram as well, maybe a little bit more personal. So do go and follow that social media link as well, and just stay tuned. We will be doing lots this season, and hopefully really improving the content we're providing for you guys, stepping up and pushing those boundaries again. So thank you guys so much for the patience and joining us on this stream, and see you guys later.